whether their house was flooded or there's all these natural disasters that have happened, or there's gang violence, or there's all sorts of things that have prompted families to weigh the cost and decide that it's best to run and it's best to go up north. And he started talking about just the histories of, like, when we think about the United States and slavery and people having to run north, for freedom, for liberation. And if we can share, these stories, we can understand and come to terms that people are going to thrive. People are going to find a way to thrive. Our kids deserve the best opportunities, and we're going to find a way to come together to ensure that they thrive as well, that they get equipped with, the best knowledge, with the opportunities, that they get the skill sets that they need to survive in this global economy that we have right now.
Yep, and one of the great things that I've definitely seen that was an effort of what you're talking about, where somebody took an issue and put together a coalition of people that covered the spectrum. I mean, it was everything from the different mediums of artists to the different races of artists, was the kind of campaign that Monica's put together to try to make sure that our artist community is paid some sort of equitable wages and that they're not getting short-shafted in the way that they are respected, and what she's been doing by going in front of the city council and doing this whole thing with the work sessions and those kind of meetings. Because I went to a number of those. I think I went to about 5 or 6 of them, and it was just amazing the kind of people that she put together that were across the spectrum. They were, like I said, they were white artists, they were black artists, they were Latin artists, they were different artists from different parts of the community, and they were giving their perspective about that important issue.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yes.
So
it's good seeing that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alexandra.
So just thinking of theme. I told you, like, I'm invigorated by any initiatives that are about, like, science and being environmentally conscious people in this global planet, right? That is undergoing so much distress, and we're seeing, like, burning forests. We're seeing climatic change happening, climate change. And so with all these different things that are happening, art, how can we tap into our humanity? How can we look at each other's humanity? And it is art, it's music, it's painting, it's the artwork that just, reaches the soul. And so just thinking about these initiatives at STEM and moving towards theme, including art in there, helping kids find their expression. There are things that we can say in words, things that we can explain in words, but there's definitely something about kids drawing, putting into artwork their thoughts, their feelings. And I was thinking about, like, just the notion of trees, right? I have always loved trees. I got to tell you that growing up, like, I remember fighting my neighbors when I was in Honduras, and I was still, like, 3 or 4 years old. I just still remember that kids would get on the tree and pluck the eucalyptus leaves off of the tree, and I would just have this I would get in a fit, and I would say, leave the tree alone, like, leave the tree, that's my tree. But the ideas of how trees matter, and so we have the city doing this initiative of becoming working towards 100% renewable energy by 2050, getting to 80% by 2030. And then also planting more trees around Durham. I can talk about trees all day long, but there are people who are drawing, who are using artwork, who are talking about art. They're putting, just murals where they talk about the roots, and they'll tap into culturally rich topics of, like, our roots. What are our roots? And if we can even get some more insight into who we are. And who we are to each other through looking at the art of trees and the branches and the expansion that we see with trees, and then also, like, knowing that you are grounded in your ancestors. You're grounded in the people who have paved the way for you. You're grounded in those traditions. You're grounded in so much richness that comes from that. It's expressing, expressing what we feel and what we see in art. And I welcome so much of those initiatives that are about letting kids express themselves and letting them share their stories in art.
Yeah, because I cannot think of the name. I was actually trying to look it up right now, of the artist that actually was on the Grammys and was a flamenco artist, because I was just amazed at her performance and the way that she incorporated flamenco. But that was actually my first time, like I said, we were talking about earlier about getting away from some of those award shows, so I hadn't seen all the Grammys over the last couple of years. But that performance I wish I could think of the young lady's name, but she incorporated the flamenco, because that was part of her growing up, was that she grew up in a country that was a flamenco-based country. So she incorporated that into her artwork and was there performing among a national crowd and everything. So it was just amazing seeing that kind of performance at last night's Grammy Awards, as I was watching it on the TV show and everything. And like I said, I'm trying to find the name of that particular performer and everything. And while I'm doing that, if you would, real quickly, because we talked about that with the other two, and we did touch on that with you. And, of course, everybody's been talking about the sadness of Kobe and things of that nature. So I do want you to give your thoughts on that as well, because I know that probably really had to hit you really hard. Because like you said, you had two kids. You have two kids of your own. So I can only imagine what it would have been like if you had heard that not just a significant other had passed away, but also one of your kids had perished in something like that as well. So I imagine that probably had to touch you as a mom very hard.
Very sad times. I actually sat with my, he's my supervisor, but we're collaborating on a lot of things, and just sitting there with the grief, talking about grief and the fact that, these things happen and they touch us in many ways. We are affected by all the things that happen with Kobe Bryant. I mean, it's there's a general sadness, a general sadness about knowing that a young life was lost, and not just him, his family, right? Like his daughter, and it's just kind of sitting with that pain, and acknowledging the grief. I think one of the biggest things that we need to remember is that we need to make room for grief. That was our conversation today. Like we just keep at a pace where we're not even thinking. We're in go mode, and these things are happening, and it's like, we're not robots. I mean, we have hearts. We know that this is painful. We know that that it is a loss, a loss of life. And so as we were sitting there, we had a work meeting. We were talking about action items and all that. And then there was just a moment where, like, just acknowledging and knowing that this is happening. And, wherever you are, because we're in this together, because we are a part of this society, because we are in this place, and we have the connection to being, in the United States of America, and knowing that, that more than that, we're also just humans on this plane, on this earth. So even if there was somebody from, we started having those questions about when grief affects us, and when we start having that empathy and feeling that pain for people that are proximate to us. But we start looking at the scaling and looking at the layers. So we have the Durham community, we have North Carolina, we have the United States, we have the North American continent, right? And then we have the world. And so the question is, do we feel the same way when we hear of loss in other continents? And the reality is that because we are not connected to many communities over there, the way we experience grief is going to be different. But through TV, through social media, through YouTube, and being able to see Kobe Bryant, that there's a connection. There's a connection that people feel, and people are going to feel grief with the people they're most connected to. And social media has allowed us to get to see people where ages ago we couldn't do that. When things are happening in other continents, we may not know who they are. We just hear that a young child drowned. We think about the African refugees that are going to Italy, and they're the travesty of losing life. But we don't have faces to them. We don't get to see them. Our media is not really sometimes sharing those stories of who they are. So it's very interesting about how we handle grief, and and also just knowing that we have to make room for it. It's part of our humanity. I mean, we have to get all the feelings, feel all the feelings about this.
Yeah, no doubt about that. If folks are interested in this, I want to get to both of you as we wind down in the next 5 minutes or so. If folks are interested in learning more about your campaign or how to help you with the campaign, what's the best website that they can reach out to you in order to make that happen?
Yes, so AlexandraValladares.com. So it's Alexandra, D-R-A at the end, VALLADARES.com. alexandravalladares.com. I'm also on Facebook, Alexandra Valladares for Durham School Board. And I have also a personal Facebook page, and, I can be reached in any of these pages. But my website is alexandravalladares.com. I really appreciate the support. This March 3rd is the primaries. That's the election day. So the primaries for other races is actually my election day. The race ends March 3rd, and so I just really appreciate if there's people with any questions, reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
And is early voting going on now, or is that already started, or is that and if so, what are the dates for that?
Okay, early voting starts February 13th.
Okay, so early voting will start February 13th. If you want to get out there and get that early voting and things of that nature, definitely I will try to get out there and help you with the campaign. I've already said that I would do that, and I will definitely let folks know that even here on this show that I'll definitely think that you're a good candidate for us. I'm looking forward to helping you in any ways that I can. And by the way, I do want to get to Daryl real quickly and get his contact information, any thoughts that you may have on his book. The singer that I was trying to remember was Rosalie. So she is a 26-year-old singer, and that's the young lady that incorporated flamenco in her performance and is originally from Barcelona, Spain. So I did find that information out. That is the young lady that I was trying to remember that performed last night at the Grammys. And like I said, definitely incorporated a lot with the flamenco style of dancing. Daryl, are you still there?
No, Daryl stepped off, bro.
All right, Daryl stepped off, but I will send everybody Daryl's contact information as well. Dean, while I'm looking that up real quickly, you got any final thoughts about how the show has gone and what we've learned today about Alexandria's campaign, what Garrett was talking about? It looks like we've had another smoking good show, as always. Next, we're going to have another theater person that I've known for a number of years. Aduke will be here. She is a longtime playwright as well, who has done playwriting work in Atlanta, New York City, North Carolina, and various other places. So we're definitely looking forward to that conversation, and she'll be on the show next week. So definitely might be somebody else that you might be interested in doing some research on and finding out what they're all about. Like I said, Daryl was an amazing guest. Was glad to have him on. So we'll find out. As a matter of fact, I'm looking up right now his contact information. But while I'm looking that up, any final thoughts that you've got?
You know what? As always, we thank all of our guests for joining us tonight, sharing the insight, and hopefully everything will turn out positively for them. You know, it's been a great discussion, and we always have great discussions because we have great guests, and we can't complain. Monday night, 7 p.m., catch us right here live on Blog Talk Radio. It replays tomorrow on the Skyhawk Radio Network at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you miss those, catch us at Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Castbox, and also right here at Blog Talk Radio. When you walk outside your front door, it's showtime and the world is your stage. Just make sure that people are not watching the rehearsal. With that being said, it's the six-man team, Geronimo. I'm out. I'll see y'all in 7 days.
That's right. We'll have another great show. Do keep your eyes and ears on the Facebook page that we keep track of, as well as our other pages that we do for the show right here, because that is where I will be posting information about Daryl Bumpus, as well as the other contact information for Garrett Davis and, of course, Alexandria's campaign. So you can definitely have another way that you can reach out to our amazing guests and learn about the different things that they have been involved in. And like I said, Daryl definitely mentioned his book, and the book is definitely about stepping into your greatness, stepping into your journey, something that a lot of times we find ways to sabotage ourselves and not do when we should be doing that. So he has definitely talked about that in his book, and you've heard him talk about some of the ways that we listen too much to negative thoughts when we should be listening to the positive things. And you also heard him talking about definitely paying attention to what the body is sending us in terms of signals and messages and things of that nature. Both he and Garrett talked about that, and that is something we need to do on a regular basis. I know I can sometimes get lazy with the whole exercise and positive